All right, guys. Today we have Dr. Evan Kapler with us today. Evan, it is so good to see you, man. When we first connected, you were working as a PT in a cash-based clinic, and you were doing like 5 or 6K a month. But you're in Boston at the time too, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And you're like, man, the cost of living here is really high. I don't really know if I want to keep doing this. And we flirted with the idea of going online. We talked back and forth for a couple months. You took the plunge, and we're about a year from that point, and you just closed out your first month at almost 20K. You finished at 18,500,
yeah.
$18,500 in revenue last month. Was that cash or is that contracted?
Cash.
Cash. That's what I'm talking about. It's real. Okay, cool. So yeah, man, I'm just like super stoked you're here, and thanks for hopping on here with me. In today's video, for you guys who are watching, we're going to interview Evan, and we're just going to hear more about his offer, hear more about his journey in getting into the online space as a physical therapist, and just talk more about sales marketing. How's he growing it? And he told me before this just how busy he is. So his plans for how he's going to get back more of his time. So Evan, dude, welcome, man. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, this is great, man. Thank you for having me.
All right, well, let's get started. Let's kind of rewind about like when you first reached out to me, which was about a year, maybe almost a year and a half ago, because I know we went back and forth a little bit. So tell me more about like where you were and what got you to want to start getting in coaching online.
Yeah, so let's see, I've been a physical therapist for 3 or 4 years. I had started working at an insurance-based clinic. I did that for a year and a half. And then I trained jujitsu. That's my niche. That's who I work with. I started training jujitsu when I was in graduate school. And one of the cool things that happened is basically since the time that I graduated, I had always had at least a small handful of guys who trained jujitsu on my schedule. So for a while on that first clinic job, I had been doing some work teaching strength and conditioning class at a jujitsu gym and kind of, bringing a table in and seeing some people over there. And for a little while, I kind of thought that was the direction I'd go. I thought I'd start a clinic in the gym. And I actually did make that jump at one point. I left my clinic job, picked up a part-time home health job, and I was, bringing a table in and seeing some people over there. But to be honest, had no idea what I was doing. Like, just kind of made this jump, right? I remember I was waking up like 3 o'clock in the morning, just like sick to my stomach because I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, okay, like I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing something. Ended up having a great opportunity here in Boston to go work at a cash clinic, which was an immediate upgrade on my financial as well as like my quality of life. There's a lot of things happening in a cash-based clinic that are really great for physical therapy. I worked there for 2 years. One of the really cool things that happened there was that I learned so much about sales, marketing, how to present yourself, and all these things that I did not have before. Right. So that I actually think was a great segue into meeting you, Matt, and kind of learning about your world in the online space. And I remember when I first met you, Matt. I think you might have. It was a message that came into my Instagram. I don't know if it was you. I wasn't sure, but I had been kind of posting some stuff regularly just because I felt like it was a good practice. I didn't know where it was going, but I felt like it was a good idea just to get comfortable throwing some stuff out on the internet, right? Exercise different things people can do. And you spoke very confidently. You spoke very confidently about your process and the things that you do. And I had a pretty good buy-in on if I were to make this jump, that you are the guy. Just the way you spoke about it, I was like, okay, this is a real person. We kind of have a similar path. Obviously, you're a physical therapist. You kind of have a similar background in me in terms of the cash space and then branching out online. So started working with you about a year ago, and it's been honestly the best decision I ever made.
Dude, thanks, man. Oh man, I give me chills. Yeah, because so much of my story says relate to yours too. Because I too is in the cash based clinic. I didn't own the clinic. I worked inside of it, and I learned
Yeah.
a ton about sales, marketing from that. Even though I didn't realize that I was like learning it as I was doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But similarly, I thought, but I worked with a lot of Olympic weightlifters, so I thought that I was going to go and open my own, clinic or do my own thing with the table and stuff. And I was like,
Yeah.
I really like the online today. So I like the
Yeah.
flexibility it provides. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so you mentioned too that you right now your current offer you're helping BJJ athletes or jiu-jitsu athletes.
Yeah, yeah, and people are trained Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and reality is more. There's a spectrum of people who train jiu-jitsu, right? And I compare it to CrossFit a lot because I think a lot of physical therapists know that world a little bit better. But you have people who are doing it hobbyists a couple times a week, going in there and training, and then you have people who are doing multiple sessions a day and trying to compete at some type of big event tournament. So anyone kind of in there, I work with them, and it's cool because that's me, right? I train jiu-jitsu. I've been training 2 to 4 days a week for the last 6 years now. It's an audience that I relate to. I just really like the people that I work with. Like everyone that I work with, I'm like, I could hang out with this guy. Like this guy's cool, right? So I think that's one of the cool things of being able to be like, okay, these are the people that are I'm going to be attracted to, and they're going to be attracted to me. I think that's kind of a cool thing with picking a niche.
Yeah, I remember when we first started, we were debating it might have been back pain or something that was like
Yeah.
a specific pain or this niche. And it just seemed like you had so much more excitement about this than the other one. The other one's like, all right, cool, we can create content around pain and stuff like that. But your story matched this so much better.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember at the time too, because when you pick a niche, you're like, all right, what's the addressable market? Do I have people in this niche who I could like reach out to get some quick client wins? And we were like, all right, let's test this out. And really quick on, once we started doing some of the marketing strategies, you started to get a really good return on we'll get later on, we'll talk more marketing, but just kind of quickly, like you start to see a really good uptick of leads and people coming to you. So that kind of solidified, oh yeah, this is the right niche for you.
Yeah.
And it seems like you're really enjoying that.
Yeah, that had kind of that's actually probably a good thing to talk about because that was probably the most influential thing I really think in like me being successful or not with this. So what had happened was let's see, before I met you, probably about 8 months before I met you, I had actually herniated two discs in my back. Like major pain, waking up every single night, like just unable to sleep, like crying, like couldn't walk down the block, like ton of pain. And it sucked because like you had to, you had to push through and then go be a physical therapist at work where you're like, you're the guy who's supposed to be like fixing these problems, right? And you have this going on.
Yes.
So that was like a very I don't think I realized it in the time, but like during that time, I did a lot of thinking about like, what do I want to do and where do I want to take this? And as I rehab my back, I mean, there's definitely a time where I was like, maybe I don't do jujitsu anymore. Maybe I drop this thing that I'm doing, right? But I was able to get back into training, and I thought I had a lot to say about back pain and a lot to share of my own personal journey. That obviously tied back into jujitsu, and then my the third one that I've been thinking was kettlebells. My thing is kettlebells. I don't go to a gym. I just have a bunch of kettlebells in my spare bedroom. So I saw all three of those were good options. And I remember, Matt, you told me that, number one, all three of those things are going to come into play when you share your story, right? No matter what you pick, all three are going to come in. And you were totally correct on that, where the back pain, the kettlebells have all come in together with the jujitsu stuff that I post and that I do. But yeah, you asked me a question when I was making that decision. You said, I forgot what the first one was. You asked me two questions, where which would excite you the most and which would you most want to be known for? And I was like, yeah, I just feel like jujitsu is like I really like that. I'm attracted to that. So that was kind of the way I went with that. And that has been the best decision that I made this entire time because it's such a definable niche, right? If you're trying to work with people who have, back pain, you don't really know if people have back pain. People are proud of their accomplishments in jiu-jitsu. People are proud of the fact that they're involved in this community and they post about it and they're happy to tell you about it, man. If you ask someone, how long you've been training for, people are excited to tell you like, oh, I picked it up 5 years ago. It's been, I lost a ton of weight. I gained in this community. It's improved my mental health. There's so many amazing things that are happening. People are excited to tell you about that. And they're excited to find someone who shares that passion and shares their knowledge with you on that subject.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like, because I'm even thinking of, like, say, if you get a lead or you get a new follower and you say that could be one of your first questions. Hey, what's going on? I see you're also, a BJJ or jiu-jitsu athlete. What do you term
I
it?
mix it up. BJJ athlete, jiu-jitsu student, person
Student.
who
Oh,
trains jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
yeah. And you're just like, how long have you been doing it for? Your response rate's going to be so high versus like someone who just like comes in and follows you. It's like, hey, how'd you come across my page? Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, because that's the same for us because we see their coach. How long have you been coaching for? People love to talk about what they do. So it's
Yeah.
like if you give them a softball question, they're like, I love BJJ. Like I will talk about it forever. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I imagine your response rates that you're getting from people who are engaging your content and stuff like that is probably so high because they can relate to you. And they also just like that world seems also pretty tight, like a pretty tight group of people.
Totally agree with that. What's kind of cool is like even on when I open up my Instagram, I almost like in my head it's almost like a different like world where there's all these people on there that like they comment on my stuff all the time. They're not necessarily people that I ended up working with, but like we share stuff back and forth. They send me messages to different things, and I send them messages, and there's this whole community of people going on. Where yeah, I think jujitsu is definitely a very tight knit niche. There's a lot of people who share common interest and get along well with each other.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's one of the things that I made a video on this YouTube video about this other week. One of the reasons that most people aren't successful, don't make 10, 20K a month as an online coach is this niche. And like we
Yeah.
skip over it and we're like, well, give me the marketing strategy. What's the sales strategy? So you're like, well, if you don't know who you're going to work with, it doesn't matter what those strategies are. It can be the best content ever, but if it's not for somebody specific, then you're going to get any and everybody who might come to you, or you might just not stand out at all and no one comes to you. So
Yeah.
like, I think honestly, if I look at your journey and the success you've had, I do attribute so much of that like to being really clear with who you serve.
Yeah, you become so much more attractive to the person that you're trying to work with, right? And it's really like it's a difficult concept, I think, when you're a young physical therapist because you're like, hey, I'll help anyone, right? Like
Anyone.
I don't really care. I get paid by how many patients I see. I'll help anyone, right? But once you take that jump to say, no, I work with this group of people, right? A, you get really good at it because you see the same problems, right? You see the same things over and over again, and you start to specialize. And then B, you're so much more attractive to someone who is looking for you, right?
Yeah.
If you're doing jujitsu and you get injured and you walk into a physical therapist's office and you're trying to explain that, your arm got Kimura and, they're not going to know what to do with that. And let's be honest, they don't have the time to go like look that up and figure out what you're trying to do, right? They're going to give you some blanket shoulder exercises and then, it's not optimal, right? So,
Like here's some banded external rotation stuff. We can do some internal rotation
yeah,
too.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
versus like,
yeah.
yeah. Well, and it also allows you, I imagine, to charge a premium too. Like you don't have to compete on price because you have such a specific offer for a specific person.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. I'd like to jump into that next. Like, what's your current offer look like? Like, I know you help them. What do you help them with? Is it more pain? Is it performance? And then how is that packaged in terms of pricing and as long as like how long they work with you?
Yeah, so basically, I mean, it's more or less a workout program, and this is definitely something that if you're a physical therapist listening to this, right, this is definitely that's sort of been my thing for as long as I've been a physical therapist or working with people. I don't really, I never did much like massage work or manipulation. Like that was never the table work was never really my thing. I always found the way that I was going to be best able to get long-term results was exercise and building capacity and getting people to the point where they're strong enough to tolerate all these things, mobility in the right places, all that sort of stuff. And I love programming on like a nerdy level. I love writing like a workout program. Like I love, yeah, I love building out like, okay, here's the next 4 weeks. Here's how this is going to progress. Like I love doing that. So that's my tool, right? Quite literally in the sense of a doctor of physical therapy. I prescribe exercise, right? That's the tangible thing here. And then really in terms of like structure and pricing, I really, what's cool about doing it this way is I can make decisions based on what is in people's best interest. Like there's no hard or fast way of like, this is the way this has to be done, right? And I always tell people I make the decision of how long we're going to work together based on three things. And number one is, how long is it going to take for you to physiologically feel better, right? What are we working with? How long is that going to take to heal? Number two, how long is it going to take for you to actually get stronger and build capacity? And then number three, I need you to learn something. And this is sort of a personal one, but I really want everyone that I work with to come out of that experience understanding how their body works, understanding how to treat a shoulder injury, a back injury, and all these different things, understanding how to create a workout program that supports your jujitsu training rather than pulls from it, right? Like I want you to learn all of those things, right? And to be honest, most of the people I work with, I end up going with a 6 month offer. We work together for 6 months, and it's $500 a month or 2550 paid in full. So you get a slight discount on the paid in full.
That's beautiful, man. All right. Did you start there? What did you start your pricing at?
You know what? I have not changed the prices since I started, but I will say one thing I did change is I used to not offer the 6 month. I would just go to that 4 month offer. And I think it was kind of like just the sticker shock of the larger paid in full value. Like I kind of started with that 4 month and built up. I've had a couple of people do a 12 month, an entire year. But to be honest, most of the people that I work with fall right into that 6 month spot.
I gotcha. Question more about the avatar. So, is it primarily jiu-jitsu athletes? Are they're in pain? So you're programming workouts, exercises to get them out of pain, or is it more performance? Like they're doing well. Maybe they've got some nagging things that are there, and they're trying to go to the next level.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, both. I mean, it really the whole spectrum of people, right? I have people who have, you know what I do see a lot of, Matt, is I see a lot of lower back, like herniated disc, just because I can speak so well to. I mean, to be honest, I can speak so confidently about my ability to get you to where you want to be because I literally experienced that injury and got back to jujitsu, right? So I definitely see a lot of people lower back pain, herniated discs, that sort of thing, pain radiating down the leg. But then I also see people who are totally healthy and are just like, hey, I want to figure out a better way to work out and do jujitsu together and not screw myself up or to be able to do this for the next 20 years. So it's anything in between.
Gotcha. Cool, man. Yeah, I love that offer. I also love it. You're like, yeah, I went out the gates at $500 a month. I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who are scared of that. Like they're like, oh, well, they've got the story. Well, they're already paying for a jiu-jitsu membership. they've already got other expenses. There's no way they would pay me $500 on top of it,
Hmm.
So like, what would you say to somebody who says that?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, man, because I have friends who are physical therapists, right? And then sometimes it's like, how does that happen, right? But I also think, like, I gotta be honest, having 2 years of working in a cash clinic was a highly valuable experience, right? Because I had already gone through that. I had already gone through, like, okay, we're going to be offering a package that, I mean, the price points were fairly similar,
Very.
right? I think in Boston, if you're going to go see a cash physical therapist in person, you're probably looking at $300 for an evaluation. If you're going to do like a 10 pack, you're looking at, say the discount at 10%, you're probably looking at 2,700 up front, right? So it's a fairly similar price point, but also like I think I can provide so much more value in what I'm doing right now than if you were to come and see me through your Blue Cross health insurance. Like it's just
Mm,
crazy. It's crazy. And like if you're really talking about it, it's like, all right, like you can go see a physical therapist through your insurance, but it's the way things are set up today. It's just not at all the same. And if you're someone who's working in that space and you know that, right? I remember working in an insurance-based clinic and seeing patients leave and being like, that guy is not going to get better because he did not get what he needs. Right. And it's not my fault. It's because I don't have the time or the resources to help him. Right. So if you think about it, it's a much higher contact, a higher touch point level of service between me and the clients that I work with today. So I think people are waking up to that too. I think most people nowadays kind of know that there's a certain percent of the population that is going to work into your local chain physical therapy clinic. And they're going to know day one that that's not going to be the thing that helps them. So I kind of, I hate to say it, but like I feel like it's not that hard if you can
yeah.
demonstrate value.
Yeah, I agree. Because it's like, I remember when I was in the cash-based clinic too, it's like, you could go down the road and get your bandaged
Yeah.
shoulder stuff. But like, I'll see you in 6 months. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
oh man, you can either pay with time, right? Like pay with the time, like time, or you pay with money, right? It's like if you want to work with me, we can do this a lot faster versus you going somewhere else, you trying over there, you then go into YouTube trying to figure it out on your own. You then go to Instagram and go follow people. And then you'll be back
Yeah.
here. And now we're in the same spot 6 months later where we could start together right now and in 6 months be in a totally different place.
Yeah. And that's exactly the same line of thought that led me to working with you, right? Because I'd spent time working on this, right? I had an idea in the back of my head. I'd spent money on different programs or trainings before to, learn about this kind of thing. I tried the in-person thing. But at the end of the day, I was like, okay, Matt's done this. He can show me literally step by step how to do this, right?
Yeah.
And it's time or money. Like, what do you want to do? So I think for a lot of people, it's something where if you have pain or an injury, it's time or money. Like, what's more important to you? And I think you see that shift in the last 20 years, and more people are like, screw it, let's get it done. It's my health. It's too important.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And even like the use of I don't know if you accept HSA, FSA, and stuff
Yeah,
like that, but there's a lot of online providers that can do that now, or online providers slash coaches who can do that. Like that's how I get all of my stuff. I have an HSA card, I have a high deductible plan, and I think more and more people are going in that direction.
yeah. You know what else is cool, man, is the way that this is set up, and I don't know like necessarily your take on this from a business perspective, but like sometimes I get people who like they really can't afford it, right?
Yeah,
Like they're not going to be able to afford it. But the problem that they're working on is deeply impactful and like deeply meaningful if they were to resolve that problem. And like sometimes I'll work with them for a cheaper rate, right?
yeah,
Just because like I know their problem very well and I know that I can help them. I know how much time it's going to take me and like I just want to do good for other people, right? Like it's something I can help them. So I think being in a position where, you're the owner of a business, you're an entrepreneur, you're dictating your own terms. I think empowering physical therapists to do that is going to create more good for more people than being in a big company where, things are dictated for you rather than the physical therapist. Because physical therapists are like, generally good people, generally very talented. They generally want to help. Most of them would do their job for free, right? So I think the whole idea getting physical therapists into the position of primary providers and being able to really be calling the shots is powerful in a lot of ways.
I agree 100%. The
Yeah.
only time it gets hard to do that is like as you start to build a team. So like, because like
Yeah.
you're like, for me, I've got a team of coaches underneath me now, and I know how much it costs to have one person being coached by us. When it's
Yeah.
just you, or maybe you have one or two other people, like you said, man, I would make so many deals. I was like, I want to help you. I have the time and space. So like, let's just make this work. Like, what can and you can kind of like
Yeah.
negotiate in a way of like, this feels really fair to me. I want to serve you. Here's what it can look like. Is that something you could do?
Hmm.
And then if you guys can't agree on something, then like you could just let them go or give them some sort of support. If you have the free time, you want to work for free, fine, do it. But you're in complete control of how
Yeah.
you serve them, which is It feels very empowering. Yeah.
Yeah, and it also changes with time, right? Like I'm really with those people where it's something that you are doing that. When I first started, absolutely. If they were willing to pay me money, I'd be like, yeah, sure, let's do it. I have three clients right now, like let's do it, right? But then as time goes on, that number changed, right? So all of a sudden, if someone was going to pay you $100 a month, now you're like, all right, realistically, it needs to be free. So you kind of have like in the back of your head, okay, I know how busy I am, and I'm sure you have a much more involved system of taking a look at that mathematically. But yeah, I think being able to know like, okay, how much time is this going to take me? It's a good option to have.
Yeah. Let's transition to growth, right? So far, we've covered your story, where you are, and who you work with. And I think that painted a really good picture. Now we want to know, how does Dr. Evan get more clients?
Yeah, man.
So
So
no, so just take it away if you want to start with like kind of your organic stuff first and just be like, all right, here's kind of what I do day to day with organic. And then we can kind of transition from there of like, how do you get more eyeballs, which is what a lot of
mhm.
what we've helped you with.
Yeah. So first off, like the way that you guys have helped me with that is huge because I'm not guessing, right? I'm making decisions based on, I mean, you guys have research based on, hey, if you put this much in ads, you can expect this much in return, right? So that first off is huge, right? Like I don't guess at how to grow. I know how to grow because I watch what you guys do and I learn from it and I apply it. But yeah, I started off with the boosted posts. Basically just getting your content to go in front of people who train jujitsu. I post 5 times a week, Monday through Friday. And then middle of August here, about, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, I started running more involved Facebook ads. What do you call the boosted? What do you call that
Yeah,
funnel? Messenger
I
ad
just call
funnel?
them messenger ads. Yeah, they're essentially all set
Yeah.
up through Meta, right? Meta, Facebook,
Yeah.
Instagram, but they essentially have leads DM you or message you to learn more about working with you.
Yeah. So that's been amazing because now you're not talking to people who are totally cold. You're talking with people who are already interested in working with you for X, Y, or Z reason. So that saved a lot of time. It's at the point, what's cool? I was thinking about this yesterday, but it's at the point where, and this is something that I really wanted to get to for a long time, but every day on my calendar, there's the opportunity to make a sale, to make money,
It's
right?
cool.
There's not a single that not that I don't take calls on weekends, but Monday to Friday, there's usually one, if not two, three, or four opportunities to like, okay, you could make some money today, which is so great. Because when I first started this a year ago, it was like, you're looking at a week and you're like, I don't know when I'm going to make money this, right? So it's pretty nice to now be like, all right, the opportunities are coming in. I just need to go ahead and convert. So that's been great. And then actually, I just kind of finalized this end of last week, but my fiance is going to be joining me and helping me really organize everything, which is I would admittedly say probably my weak point is the organization on the back end stuff, the remote coaching app that you know about, getting the ads up and running and all that stuff. So I'm really excited about that because I think if I can make things more efficient, more effective, more streamlined, open up my time to do the programming, right? I talked about that. That's something I enjoy doing. I enjoy making the Instagram content. I enjoy messaging people. If I can do more of the things that I can enjoy, and my fiance loves organizing, which is a bonus because that's something that I don't enjoy. I'm looking to be able to make this thing a lot more efficient and effective so that we can, continue to grow it.
Yeah, I'm the organized person. As you already know, just
Yeah.
from working with you, I'm like so organized, sometimes to a fault. It's really nice to have someone on your team who can help you with that. Because then you just get a clear snapshot of what's happening. Like what's my cost per call? How much it costs me to get a client? Okay, how many clients do I have? How many clients are up for renewal this month? Okay, like there's a lot of like moving parts, especially as your roster grows. And let's say you have 50 plus people that you're serving, you need that organization to still deliver a high level of service, right? Because
Yeah.
if you don't have it and you're kind of just like ad hoc coaching or ad hoc delivering your plans of care and stuff like that, and there's no tracking, and it'll just prevent how many people you can serve, or
Hmm.
you just hire somebody else sooner because you don't have the systems to essentially service as many people yourself. And
Yeah.
that's not right or wrong. Like if you're like, I don't want to have a bunch of systems and stuff. I want to have a roster of 30, 40 people and then hire someone else who could do the same. Yeah, that's cool too. I strive for efficiency, which it sounds like you're going to get more of.
Yeah, I think that's probably my current challenge, my current obstacle, because I think when you start a business like this, I mean, so much of it is based off of you. You're the person that people are ultimately buying from, right? You're the one who's on the social media content every day, right? So I think for a long time, that is inherently what's valuable about what you're doing. And then I think as an entrepreneur, it's very easy to fall into the mindset of like, I need to do everything, right? It's not going to get done unless I do it. But then what happens is you end up with, your schedule can get very full. So actually, this is something I've been working with Mallory on, but she sent me the book, Buy Back Your Time. I don't know
Yeah,
if that's one that you've
Dan
read.
Martell. Is it Dan Martell's book?
Yeah, that is. I was gonna say I don't know the author's name, so I'm glad that you know it, so we could properly shout him out. But yeah, I started reading that, and it's very like he makes an awesome case for like why it's important to not fall into that because it's actually stunting your growth, and it's very easy to think that because you're working hard, you're continuing to grow your business. But if you're just working hard when you could be working smarter, more effectively, right, that could potentially be holding you back. So I think that's something that I'm looking like in the next year. That's a big kind of piece for me mentally. Is like okay. I got to build systems. I got to make this more effective. I got to make it something that is not requiring me to work hard, but to work a little bit more smart.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I still fall victim to that from time to time, you know? So it's
Yeah.
like when you're getting started and you're making like where you're at, you're still doing everything. I mean, really, once you pass 20K a month is when you start to have some more flexibility because you can start to
Mhm.
pay somebody like, a VA or even like your partner, fiance, you could pay her 2 to 3K. And that's still 10 to 15% of your revenue. It's just, that's a lot. But like also like you can get so much time back. But you couldn't
Mhm.
pay somebody 2 to 3K if you're making 10K. And you could, but then there's still other overhead expenses you've got that you're just tight, right? So like once you get to 20K, you can kind of start to like, ooh, breathe a little bit. It's like, who can I bring in here? And
Yeah.
nobody's going to be there full time yet, but like, can I bring some help in and can I get 10 to 15 hours of my week back? And that 10 to 15 hours a week, probably should just enjoy it first before you start like, like, all right, I'm going to use this to do more marketing. Like, all right, cool.
Right.
I'm going to go to today or
Right.
somewhere, and then once you kind of like enjoy a little bit of freedom, you can devote more time to build to more marketing and stuff like that. And then hire
Yeah.
another person. Then
Yeah.
enjoy that like 10, 15 hours and then kind of keep doing that. I fall victim because I will hire and then I'll just keep working. And I'm like, I find more problems to solve. You know what I mean? And it's like sometimes you forget and you're like, well, what's the whole point of all this? Like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's an interesting. I feel like you're probably the same way as me on this. But do you ever get into a place where like I don't know, like I feel like you growing up, like I played basketball growing up, right? But I mean I was obsessive about it. Like I every day in the summer I was going down to the court and like just running through drills and stuff for hours, 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 hours. And like I feel like that's partly like the that's the entrepreneurial thing, right? Like if you're going to be an entrepreneur, like I like working on my business. I enjoy it, right? And sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know what? I'd love to go for a walk, right? I got to think about walks. I would just love to go for a walk just for the hell of it. But sometimes I'm like, man, I got all this stuff that I'm doing, and like, it is work, and it's sometimes stuff you don't want to do, but it's also really engaging. Like I would way rather do the work that I'm doing today than honestly work for somebody else. I really enjoy what I'm doing. So I think that's kind of the thing there too. Like, okay, buy back your time. And then it's like, what are you doing with that time? And I think that's kind of like, I don't know. Do you feel like that's something that's almost like a personal decision for the entrepreneur? Like, what do you want to do with that time?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I'm the
Yeah.
same. It'll come in waves, man. Like, yeah, I find this like every 2 years it'll hit like you can do something like really do it like that for like 2 years. And then it gets to a point where like, all right, I need like some space. Like I needed to kind of like take my foot off the gas. You know what I mean? Like doing
Yeah.
all the thing. Like, because recently we're almost at the 2 year mark and I'm starting to experience. I'm not going to change anything. I'm keep doing what I'm doing, but I'm now starting to realize, oh, I need more people. I can't keep putting this high level of output out every single day. I
Yeah.
mean, I can, but if I didn't have to and things were still getting done without me putting my foot to the pedal, it'll allow you to start to, yeah, just breathe a little bit more. And almost like I heard this from somebody the other day and it kind of resonated with me. It's like if you can build your business to the point where you're kind of like a free agent for your business, where it's like, oh, marketing needs help, I'm going to jump in there. Oops, sales need
Yeah.
help, I'm going to jump in there. Oop, operations need help, I'm going to jump in there. But not to the point where it's like I still have all these hats to wear all the time. That over like a 2 year period can start to weigh. But yes, I agree. You can definitely dictate like your time. You can devote more time back to your business. Do that. Like, and then there will be a certain point where you might realize, oh, I do need more time for me,
Yeah.
For the first 2 years, dude, I couldn't stop. And then if I start a new offer, I kind of in a similar way. It's like I can't stop. And then I get to the point where I'm like, okay, more me time, less work time, and then repeat.
Yeah. What I think is cool too about that is like I mean I do a lot of thinking about like the future, like long-term future, right? And like I'm getting married next year, right? Eventually I'd like to raise kids, right? There's a lot of things where you start thinking about like, okay, the utility in owning a business and being able to like maybe I do decide to just put my foot to the gas pedal for the next 5 years, right? And like really, put as much into it as I can so that in the future after that, I can step back and
Yeah.
coach Little League or whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
whatever I choose I want to do at that point, right? But I think that's like the really cool thing about it is like, what I really like and I think about a lot is like the ceiling is as high as I want to make it, right? Because when you have if you work as an employee, there's sort of like a general, how far you can be able to go. Right? As a
Yeah.
physical therapist, I to be honest, think that there's not enough of a ceiling, right? You kind of know you can go work at a big clinic, become a director, manage multiple different locations, right? But you have a pretty good idea of how much you're going to make doing that. But if you own a business, I mean, that ceiling is blown open. You can take it as high as you want to take it. So I think that's something that I really enjoy is knowing that like, hey, this time in my life, like I'm 29, I have the ability to work a lot on this business, right? And I really enjoy knowing that that's going to set me up to be somewhere when I'm 40 that I would not get if I was just working 9 to 5 and then relaxing after 5 o'clock. I enjoy that.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I'm saying once once you've made money yourself, you're like, there's no way I could ever go back, right? And yes, with the ceiling, there's no ceiling when you work for yourself. And at any point, you're in control of how much work you do. So you're like,
Yeah, yeah,
right now you're 29. Before you have kids, you might be like, I'm gonna blow this thing up. I want to see if I can get to 50, 60K months, maybe more. But then you're like, oh, I have a kid. Cool. I could just like if I had a big team, I could let people go. Like, sure, they would be upset. I mean, maybe, but like I could slowly let them go and let them know that, hey, over the next 6 months, like I want to spend more time with my kids. I want to
yeah,
be a little league coach. So I will be phasing the team out and I'll be making this small again. It'll just be me. And I'll be doing,
yeah,
10, 20K a month again. But guess what? Like you get to choose that, and that's
yeah,
the cool part is like when you get to run your own business, you're in control of what the business does. And you never feel like you're a cog on the wheel and you don't feel like you're stuck. You know what I mean? Like you can create whatever you want to create.
yeah, yeah, totally. I love that. I love that. That's the part that like I wake up every day like fired up. I wake up and I'm like, let's go. Like, what are we doing? So I love that part of it.
Yeah, me too, man. Let's close up here. This has been really fun. I'd love to just like hear if you had some advice for your younger self, not a younger self, but just like a year ago, year and a half ago when we first started connecting. What would you tell your younger self as you were like thinking about this, about to jump into coaching online?
Yeah, good question. I think first off, when you look at physical therapy specifically, I think, we put so much into getting this degree, right? I mean, you go to school for 7 years, right? 4 years undergrad, and then you go and apply to graduate school. And, you get a lot of people who are 6 figures in the hole, right? Just coming out and paying that loan back. I think like in hindsight, I would have made this decision a lot faster, right? I would have gotten to the point where, okay, however much money it takes to work with Dr. Matt, like this is a no-brainer, right? Because once you do it and you look back, you're like, okay, you have $100,000 in student loans to pay. You're not going to put $5,000 on a credit card to learn about business and grow your ability to, sell and market yourself and all this stuff. I think the big thing is like that's actually in hindsight a much easier decision than it was at the time. I don't know how that's such a hard decision for people, right? So I think to my younger self, I would say to make that decision sooner.
Yeah, I think it's hard because it's like because there's the level of trust and there's a level of control, right? Like you can control the outputs you put out there, like you can control
Yeah,
the content you post and stuff like that. But there's a level of like the results that you can't control, right? So it's like you're like, all right, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to do the actions, and I hope that the actions that I do are going to attract the right people.
yeah,
And there's yeah, of course, there's like some nerves around like investing yourself and learning new skills and stuff like that because ultimately like even with of course like we have a guarantee and stuff like that but in life there's no guarantees. There's no guarantee that your business is going to work. So it's like that when you put money down in the credit card for yourself, it's you betting on you, and
yeah,
it's like I think I can do this, and
yeah,
that's hard, like especially the first investment. Now that you have a coaching business that does 6 figures a year, or it's gonna multiple six, hopefully multiple 6 figures by the end of next year. Like it's a lot easier if you make those decisions and invest in yourself now because you're like, I believe in myself and I know I've already seen that I can get results. So I'm gonna do it again.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, that's actually very true. But I think the other thing too is just like the place where a lot of physical therapists are, where like if you have 6 figures of student debt and you're making $75,000 a year, then take it. I'm in Boston. Boston's an expensive place to live. For me, I just got to a point where like I feel like the change I needed to make needed to be drastic. It wasn't a small change. It wasn't like stop buying coffees. right? It was like, no, you need a drastic change here,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
you want to pay off your student loan, buy a house, get married, have, like you need a drastic change, right? So like I feel like I got to a certain point where I was like, okay, the change that needs to be made here has to be a big change. And yeah, I just think I would have made that decision sooner.
I love it, man. Do you have a tentative date or kind of plan for when you'll have student loans paid off?
No, I really don't right now. I'm just trying to throw as much money as I can every month for now. But hopefully within the next, I mean, if the business keeps growing like it's growing, it's a good question. Hopefully by 2 years from now, it's done.
You should be able, yeah, because that's when I did it. I did it at 30. I'm at 30 now, so I did it this year. So like, yeah, I was supposed to you're 29. You're probably right there. But you're right.
Yeah.
It's so much easier when you have more money
Yeah.
coming in.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a great tool for physical therapists. I really think like any physical therapist, if you've listened this far, you're at least somewhat interested. But I think like I don't know, it's such a great tool for physical therapists if you're talented and you're passionate about what you do and you can serve a specific audience that's gonna acknowledge you. It's a great path for anyone who fits that kind of mold.
Love it. I'm sure there's people who are listening who would might have some questions from the episode. Is it cool if they hit you up on Instagram? And if so, where can they find you?
Yeah, it's just at Dr. Evan Kapler, DrEvanKappler.
Cool. Yeah. So if you guys do have questions about like, Evan specifically, or if you want to hear about Evan's experience working with us, like feel free to hit him up as long as that's cool with you, Evan.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for listening. And Evan, dude, thanks so much for being here. It's again, I'm just really proud of you. Like I know because I was the one who had your call with you, the two calls with you
Yeah.
before you enrolled, and I just saw so much potential in you when I on those calls. So I'm just very I'm very grateful for your trust and your patience and just
Yeah.
like working with us, man. It's been fun. I know it's not over, and we're gonna keep growing together. So thank you for being here and all you do for us too.
Yeah, likewise, Matt. Same to you. I mean, quite literally, you've changed the trajectory of my life. So I really can't thank you enough. It's a very powerful thing that you're doing, and I'm all for what you're doing for physical therapists and coaches and all that sort of stuff. But I think specifically physical therapists, I love it.
Cool, man. You almost got me tearing up there.
No, I'm serious, man.
I appreciate you guys and thanks, man. So yeah, we'll connect offline. I'm getting choked up. Well, okay. This is it. Thank you guys. If you guys hit him up. You can hit me up too on Instagram. And if you're new to the channel here, go ahead and smash the subscribe button for more videos just like this. All right. Peace.
Cool, man. Thank you, Matt.